everyone knows the cultural phenomenon that is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Nope, not that one. This one. Before the Scoobies, the Big Bads, and the Vampire Love Triangle, came the 1992 movie that gave us these memorable moments.
How funky is your chicken? How funky is your chicken? How loose is your goose? Our goose is totally loose. So come on, all you hot fans. So come on, all you hot fans. And shake your caboose. And shake your caboose.
Starring Christy Swanson and the Luke Perry, who youngsters will know as one of the hot Riverdale dads, which is funny because the Buffy TV show was the show that made the WB successful. It then mutated into the CW and spawned all the supernatural-themed teen dramas the network was best known for. So, this man is technically responsible for all these shows. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. He's actually a huge part of the television and movie culture of the last 30 years, and I will be talking positively about his work in this video and in future, but that does not mean that I support this man at all. Now I said that, let's take a look back at the movie that somehow launched the Buffyverse. This tale begins with a cheesy flashback to the Dark Ages in Europe. What? All of it? As a voiceover explains what the Slayer is and does, and you just know the movie is going to be great when it tells you the lore instead of showing you it. Smash cut to the modern day, and right off the starting block this movie telegraphs what we are in for with these top tier starting credits. Wait, Pee Wee Herman got third billing on this movie that also featured the legendary Rutger Hauer? Okay. The scene is set for a fun, light-hearted high school movie, complete with 35-year-old high school seniors. I forgot Hilary Swank was in this. I forgot David Arquette was in this. Dewey, my beloved. In fact, let's get this out of the way up front. Hilary Swank, David Arquette, Ben Affleck, Stephen Root, Thomas Jane, and Ricky Lake are all in this movie. That's on top of Rutger Hauer, Luke Perry, and Donald Sutherland. This cast was actually pretty stacked. Buffy is your stereotypical 90s valley girl. She is like so failing history and spends all of her time shopping, cheerleading, or making out with her jock boyfriend. Buffy's boyfriend is a shit.
Jeffrey, I don't want to sound sexist or anything, but can I borrow her?
Andy.
No way. You get her dirty.
All of her friends are shallow, and I believe the polite term for it is intellectually challenged. But Buffy doesn't seem to have noticed any of that until she starts dreaming about being a warrior in a past life and meets the slightly creepy medic, played by the incomparable Donald Sutherland. Her future watcher decides that this is the best way to make first contact with her. Buffy and the Mean Girls have a run-in with two drunk losers named Pike and Benny, in a cinema and then again in a cafe, where Ricky Lake makes her cameo.
Hey, wait a minute. You're the guys from the movie. We hate you guys.
Pike, eh? One letter off of Spike. But more about that later. One of the clearly non-teenage basketball players wanders off, meets this diva, and is clearly about to be lunch. Merrick is following Buffy around because sure, stalking the girl in a creepy way is the first step towards the trusting bond you'll need to work together. Who wrote this? Oh yeah, I forgot.
You must come with me now to the graveyard while there's still time.
Yep, inviting a teenage girl you don't know to a graveyard is a great idea, dude. And Buffy is all,
Nah, sister. You're not getting me to no secondary location.
Watching this back, I wondered how they got a legend like Sutherland to star in this. Like, did he have a big-ass tax bill to pay or something? And I read that he allegedly messed with the script, rewriting his lines to the point where Joss Whedon walked off set. 10 out of 10 diva behaviour, we stan a king. The first 10 minutes sets the scene pretty well. There's a pretty high school girl, creepy older guy, a hot underdog, and a news report about people dying with neck injuries, then disappearing from the morgue.
The apparent cause of death was a severe neck wound that resembled, in the words of one bystander, a really gross hickey.
Buffy's parents are so rich they have 2 microwaves, and do not appear to give a singular crap about her. Before Merrick can get Buffy alone to give her the "You're a wizard, Harry" speech, he saves Pike from the vamps, who can fly in this movie, because sure, but Dewey/Benny gets got.
I will remember you.
Merrick knew about Buffy's past life dreams, which is enough evidence for her to follow him to the secondary location, where we get the best levitation stunt work ever committed to film. And our first vamp kills for the brand new Slayer. Whilst at the cemetery, Buffy starts getting mad period cramps, only they aren't because of her period. They are her version of Spidey sense. She gets period cramps when a vampire is near. Who wrote this? Oh, yeah, right. Oh yay, Dewey's back!
Wait a minute, man. What's wrong with you?
I'm fine.
Look like shit, man. Well, I feel pretty.
Only he's floating. He has fangs and pig ears for some reason, which can't be good. I love that his gold tooth is now a gold fang. That's a good bit. The bad guys grab one of the mean girls and nobody seems to notice. Buffy tries to skip out on her destiny, so, being a middle-aged man, Merrick decides his best course of action is to lurk around the girl's changing room waiting to startle her. But don't worry, because after scaring her in what she calls a naked place, he berates her, and then he throws a knife at her head. Rupert Giles would never.
You aware of the implications?
Buffy forgives him for some reason and finally accepts her destiny, which means it's time for a training montage.
We're gonna need a montage. Ooh, it takes a montage.
A character improving at a skill via a time-lapse training montage is one of my favourite movie tropes, second only to travelling by map. The Christy Swanson versus Sarah Michelle Gellar debate is pointless, considering one got to play an iconic character for 7 seasons of 20-ish episodes each, and one got a low-budget, 1 hour and 26 minutes movie. But Christy has Sarah Michelle Gellar beat on punching posture here. You're a black belt in Taekwondo, Sarah. You should know to keep your wrist straight. Girl, you are gonna hurt yourself.
Boy, I'm feeling really helpless. God. Oh. Hello?
Buffy goes on her first patrol and then we get the scene. The idea that started it all. A pretty blonde girl walks down a dark alley alone and is accosted by a monster. But the just a girl kicks the monster's ass. The creator wanted to subvert this typical horror movie trope and thus Buffy was born. Merrick and his Slayer have a wee heart-to-heart bonding sesh where he explains the weird PMS crap to her and tells her that he has been reincarnated to fight evil just as she has.
Great. My secret weapon is PMS. That's just terrific. Thanks for telling me.
After seeing Benny flying, Pike decides he's leaving town in what looks like the Mystery Machine, but breaks down, gets attacked and inadvertently takes the minion vampire. IMDb says his name is Amelin, but I feel like we never actually hear it said in the film. Anyway, him on a van top trip and rips his arm off.
Kill him a lot.
Buffy saves him and takes him home. Wait, is that a soul patch? Huh, still would. And so would the Buffster because these two are vibing.
You know what it's like when everything is suddenly different? And everything you thought was crucial seems so stupid. You find yourself babbling incoherently to a stranger man in your living room.
Are you calling me a man?
Pike, you live alone, you have facial hair, chest hair, and you work as a mechanic. Surely you consider yourself an adult. Back at the school, the mean girls have finally realised that one of her friends is dead, but only because her body was found after weeks. The shitty boyfriend's shitty friend sexually assaults Buffy, so she hurts him, and the boyfriend's response is to ask Buffy what is with her, and to tell his friend not to touch his thing. She's drifting away from her social circle more and more, and that's a good thing because they all suck. But ignore all that character development rubbish because it is now time for the best scene of a movie. Vampire basketball player versus Ben Affleck, because who isn't in this movie at this point? The basketball coach gets some of the funniest lines of this movie by far, telling his players to assert their personhood, extend their auras, and dazzle them with their politeness.
That's short.
After the skirmish with the basketball vamp, Buffy steals a motorbike, and Pike also has a motorbike, somehow. Then Buffy demonstrates the correct way to park a bike you stole from a guy who was catcalling you. The midpoint battle takes place in a parade float storage yard, which starts off very cool visually, but quickly devolves into camp as hell. Look at this vamp on a giant unicorn. Who does he think he is? Harmony Kendall?
I know that guy. That is a bad guy. Can we go, please?
And this squirrel in the background while the big bag uses his hypnosis frawl thing to lure our protagonist to her death? How am I meant to take this moment of danger seriously? And then it does get serious because Lothos kills President Snow. Which is sad, but according to him, he will be reincarnated, so... His final words are...
When the music stops, the rest is...
What?
After losing her mentor, Buffy has to go back to planning the school dance and tries to talk to her friends, but finally realizes that they only share half a brain cell between them.
Like, now we're like stupid?
Yes! Hope this helps, kiss kiss kiss. No longer a member of the Mean Girls squad, Buffy goes on the protagonist walks down a hosed-down wet sidewalk while sad music plays, walk, and Pike is back on a different motorbike. How many vehicles does this man own? This street with the neons and the absolutely banging tracksuits of the extras is early 90s perfection. Buffy says to hell with her calling, she's going to the dance. Benny overhears, and her name/school location gets back to Lofos, who of course wants to kill her at the aforementioned dance because he's a dramatic bitch. Pike seems to realise that the dance will be the finale of the film, so he's making steaks out of anything wooden he can find, and makes himself all pretty to take Buffy to the dance. And the soul patch is removed! God is real. Praise Jesus. Hallelujah. Buffy pitches up at the dance wearing a look that will be reused for TV Buffy at the end of season 1. And finds out that her pathetic boyfriend has broken up with her via answering machine. She's actually pretty sad about this, until Pike turns up looking Luke Perry in the 90s level hot. They flirt and dance a bit before Christy Swanson drops the best and most important line of dialogue in the entire film.
You know, Buffy, you're not like other girls.
Yes, I am.
Oh no, they're cute. I totally ship it. If you had told me when I first saw this film that one day this woman would win not one but 2 Oscars, I would have said, I'm a child, I do not know what that means. The final battle begins.
There were vampires out there, man!
And apparently one of these vampires is Seth Green, probably this one, just going by the back of his head alone. Pike and the high school kids fight off the vamps while Buffy heads for her 1v1 with the big bad. But first, the best death scene in the history of death scenes. The Slayer is straight up about to die when Pike electrocutes Benny, shutting off the music, and Merrick's final words finally make sense to Buffy. And I'm happy for her because they didn't make a lick of sense to me.
So I didn't know what any part of it meant.
This is your defense? Your puny faith?
No. My keen fashion sense.
The battle moves to the gym hall in front of everyone, and I cannot with Rutger Hauer in a single scene he's in. He turned up for filming, had the time of his life hamming it up, and went home with a fat check. I'm proud of him. Buffy takes the most logical and practical path from point A to point B to grab a flagpole, and then they fight at the quality level of 2 8-year-olds with wrapping paper tubes. This is the finale, guys. The climax of your movie, and that's what you went with. Okay.
Now, I'm really pissed off.
There's more cuteness with Pike and Buffy. Wait, are we calling them Buffy? And he makes sure she gets her last dance while police sirens are going off outside. They're so sweet, I almost don't want her to ditch him and move to Sunnydale. Almost. Buffy saves the world, or at least the high school dance, gets the boy, and they ride off into the sunset on what might be another different motorbike? Yep, Pike has acquired yet another bike. Buffy, hun. He's cute and all, but he's clearly a vehicle thief. Over the end credits, there's funny clips of the high schoolers and teachers being interviewed on the news, before cutting back to Paul Rubin's vampire still dying. The creator hated this movie so much and what was done to his precious vision that he released a comic based on his original script because it was totally different from the finished movie according to him. So I read it and it's honestly not that different. The overall vibes are more horror than comedy, but the majority of that feeling comes from the way the comic is drawn and not the writing. In fact, the majority of the script stays the same and all the major line beats are there. When the shitty boyfriend's shitty friend asks to borrow Buffy in the comic, she at least questions that interaction. In the movie, she doesn't acknowledge it at all. The biggest change from the original script/comic to screen was that Merrick died by his own hand rather than being killed by Lophos. He dies to stop Lophos using his hypno-thrall on him, scared he will reveal Buffy's name to the big bad. Then Benny tells Lophos the next day, so he dies for nothing? In the film version of the scene where Merrick dies, Lophos walks away without killing Buffy because she isn't ready, only to turn up at the school dance a few days later to kill her. Lophos is only at the dance in the original script because it is the only time and place he knows she will be for sure. The Merrick death scene when the music stops premonition idea that didn't make any sense, and the Watchers being reincarnated along with the Slayer also doesn't feature. Basically all the bad plot points in the movie were not present in the comic/original script, so I can see why he was pissed off, but again it wasn't drastically different. If I hadn't read the comics directly after rewatching the movie, I doubt I would have even noticed. Oh, and Pike steals less vehicles in the original script. That feels important somehow. While we're talking about Pike, why does he have white hair and a leather jacket in the comic? What is going on there? Was he meant to be a proto-Spike? Or is naming characters just like really hard? In the movie, the Pike character kind of feels like what would happen if Spike and Angel had had a baby, but I honestly don't think these two would be great at co-parenting. The comic ends with the infamous Buffy burns down the school gym lore that follows into the TV show, and Pike and Buffy went to Vegas. There's a final page of the comic where Buffy is in the library with Willow, Xander and Giles. She's been telling the story the entire time, and when Willow asks what happened to Pike, we sadly do not get an answer. This movie obviously isn't meant to have anything to do with the Buffyverse that came after it. The creator has said as much in interviews, but the building blocks are there. Buffy is pretty much the same character in the early parts of season 1 as she is in this movie. In fact, the whole movie feels like an elongated TV show pilot. Thankfully in the show, the weird "since vamps get cramps" thing disappears. Wait, is it because vamps and cramps rhyme? Is that why you did this? Dear male writers, just do not. Regards, all women everywhere. The Slayers in the movie lore are born with a mark.
You bear the mark of the coven.
What, that big ol' hairy mole? Ew, I had that thing removed.
The vampires do not dust when killed, they can fly, have weird ears that kinda make them look like the high school mascot, and permanent fangs. Not dusting, I'd imagine, was a budget thing for the movie, and them not looking at all human would have been a serious impediment in the TV show. They wouldn't have been able to hide amongst humans, there would be no "oh my god, he's a vampire" type reveals, and it would be really hard to have all of this happen if James Marsters had to rock permafangs and piggy ears. I've got a feeling teenage me absolutely still would have crushed on him though. Speaking of Spike, the film implies that Lophos killed every reincarnation of Buffy in the past, which makes the Slayer of Slayers grand total of 2 look pretty weak. Kristy Swanson has had a pretty steady career, but was never hugely famous, and I've heard people comment on how bad she was in this movie, but I have to disagree. She did everything that was asked of her and did it well. She nailed the vapid Valley Girl, handled the transition from cheerleader to chosen one, revealing the layers to Buffy's character well, and really sold the fight choreography. It wasn't her fault that the fight choreography was objectively bad. I've not seen a huge amount of Luke Perry's work, but he could do the hot and kinda sweet guy who dishes out one-liners thing in his sleep, and that's all that was needed of him for this role. I think Sutherland and Hauer were both aiming to win the Campus Horror Performance of All Time award, and if the rest of the movie had gotten on their level, then it would have been an absolute classic. Sadly, this movie couldn't decide if it was scary or hilarious. If it had picked one, it could have stuck the landing, but it didn't fully commit either way. And some of it is absolutely terrible. Every time you see someone on a wire, they are dangling around like they literally just tied a rope around the actor and hoped for the best. The budget was $4. But there are also some really hilarious parts, like the principal teacher giving dead students detention, then knocking Hilary Swank's character out because she's hysterical. There was a great movie in here somewhere that was most likely lost amongst studio bullshit. Would I recommend it to someone who hadn't seen it before? Yes, actually. It's a see it with friends and have a laugh kind of movie. My rating? 10 out of 10 for this scene alone, and for starting the Buffyverse, I guess. But that's just like my opinion or whatever. You can fight me about it in the comments, or just make your own video. YouTube is free to use. Okay, love you, bye!